Yeah. Yeah. That's fucking right. We fucking made it, mate. All right, chat. would say. Some would say. God, these are fucking bombs. Not bombs. Fire. These are fire. This mix is fire. Right, chat? The fucking atmosphere in that track. Alright, chat. Got a brand new track here. AI and everything. Love it. This is great. DJ Blattbond. Don't worry, I got my Adidas hat on. I'm good. This is called Tuk Tuk. What the fuck?
Welcome.
Каждый день я просыпаюсь и ехидно улыбаюсь. От звонков горит труба, на тусовку мне пора. Но они не выкупают, я настроен очень дико. Мои ноги все ломают, я дестройер, отойди-ка. Зашел, попил, врубай винил. Зашел, попил, народ застыл. Каждый раз собираю круг. хаях долбит звук, у людей револвый лук. Мои ноги как базуки, громыхают в ультразвуки. Бас гуляет на движухе, валит так, что слышат духи. Вокруг дестрой, в душе покой. Тут пол сырой, долби ногой. Village Boys, о, давай долби ногой. Давай. Долби. Ногой. Оп, оп, оп. Давай. Долби. Ногой. Каждый раз собираю круг, на хаях долбит звук, у людей ревовый лук. Бас гуляет на движухе, валит так, что слышат духи.
To Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump Tuesday blasted U.S. media outlets saying on Truth Social, if Iran surrenders, they would portray it as a, quote, masterful and brilliant victory over the United States, unquote. It comes as Iranian officials signal that negotiations to reach a ceasefire deal are ongoing. Tehran's top negotiator, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Iran's parliament, returned from Qatar on Tuesday. According to Iranian officials, his visit to Qatar aimed to secure the release of $24 billion, a quarter of Iranian funds frozen abroad. This comes as Iranian authorities partially restored internet access after a nationwide blackout that lasted for nearly 3 months. Israel said Wednesday it had killed Mohammed Odeh, Hamas's newly appointed armed wing chief, in an operation in Gaza on Tuesday. A family statement said he was killed along with his wife and son. Gaza health officials said 6 people, including at least 1 woman, were killed and more than 20 others wounded in the same Israeli strike, which destroyed an upper floor of an apartment building in Gaza City. Since last October's so-called U.S.-brokered ceasefire, Israel's killed some 900 Palestinians in Gaza. This is a resident of Gaza City describing Israel's airstrike Tuesday.
There was a sudden airstrike by Israeli warplanes. It was a surprise. They hit a rooftop apartment in a building with 3 missiles, and they weren't simple missiles. They were heavy ones. There is no ceasefire. Day and night there is shelling. The shelling is constant here. They say there is a ceasefire, but there is no ceasefire for us. This is the Eid atmosphere, as you can see. It is Eid now.
Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon killed at least 31 people and wounded 40 on Tuesday, according to Lebanon's health ministry. Israel launched more than 120 airstrikes Tuesday alone, one of the heaviest days of bombing in weeks. An Israeli military official confirmed troops had begun operating beyond the so-called Yellow Line, which is a boundary running roughly 10 kilometers inside Lebanon. The escalation comes despite a U.S.-brokered ceasefire in place since mid-April. Since March 2nd, over a million Lebanese have been forced to flee their home, and more than 3,100 have been killed in Israeli attacks. This is a resident of Tyre.
Kids, women, and elderly people all sitting here. Suddenly, the Israelis send evacuation warnings, and these people get thrown into chaos. They pick themselves up and leave. Half an hour, 45 minutes later, look what happens.
The U.S. military carried out another strike Tuesday on a vessel in the eastern Pacific Ocean, killing 1 person, leaving 2 survivors. The Trump administration once again claimed the vessel was carrying drugs without providing any evidence. Video shared by the U.S. since September, the Pentagon says it has killed nearly 200 people in strikes on boats in the Caribbean and Pacific. The attacks have been widely condemned as illegal. Hundreds of immigrants detained at the ICE jail known as Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey, are continuing their hunger and labor strike to protest inhumane conditions and call for their release. Delaney Hall is operated by the private prison company Geo Group. Outside the 1,000-bed jail, ICE agents clashed with protesters, pepper spraying them. 3 people have been arrested during the days-long standoff. Even as Homeland Security denies there's an ongoing hunger strike, so-called border czar Tom Homan vowed to force-feed the immigrants on hunger strike if the situation at Delaney Hall, quote, gets bad enough, unquote. Newark is a sanctuary city. DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullen has threatened to halt international flights and stop processing travelers to Newark International Airport and other major U.S. airports in sanctuary cities. We'll have more on this story after headlines.
Be allowed to do this.
The Trump administration is expediting the use of mass immigration hearings in order to issue more deportation orders. NPR reports immigrants are now being scheduled to appear in front of what's known as master calendar hearings with an unprecedented 100 or more people at a time. For many immigrants, this is the first time they would appear in immigration court to plead their case. Immigrants without legal representation have been disproportionately targeted for these new hearings. Lawyers told NPR the practice is already underway in cities like Chicago and Boston. The Supreme Court has sided with the Trump administration in blocking a free speech lawsuit involving federal immigration judges. The conservative majority justices overturned a lower court ruling that had allowed the challenge to proceed. In 2020, a group of immigration judges filed a lawsuit over a federal government rule that limits their ability to speak out on public policy. The National Association of Immigration Judges said in a statement, quote, "Justice cannot endure when judges are intimidated into silence, nor can a nation remain free when the rule of law is subordinate to the whims of political ambition," unquote. Mass protests have continued in Bolivia for nearly a month as thousands take to the streets demanding the resignation of President Rodrigo Paz. Lawmakers this week moved to approve the possible deployment of armed forces to suppress the mobilizations. Farmers, teachers, and others have joined the protests, calling on Paz's government to roll back austerity measures amid soaring living costs.
We want the government to solve this problem, to fix it once and for all, and to do so wholeheartedly. The babies are starving. We can't afford to buy food. We seniors no longer have the money to buy food, and I have my granddaughters who are orphans. I'm asking for a solution.
The Trump administration is reportedly preparing to deploy public health officials to Kenya in an effort to quickly staff a potential quarantine center to send U.S. citizens who've been exposed to Ebola. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, which said some members of the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps have received deployment notices to Kenya. The World Health Organization says there have been more than 900 suspected Ebola cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo, over 200 suspected deaths in just under 2 weeks since the outbreak was first announced. This comes as healthcare workers gathered in the eastern DRC city of Bunia on Tuesday for the burial of a doctor who died while treating Ebola patients. This is the president of the Ituri Medical Association.
We are indeed afraid. We're seriously afraid because all of us are supposed to take care for the sick. Today there are sick people coming in. Tomorrow there'll be more sick people coming. We are afraid. We're really afraid. But we cannot abandon the sick because we're afraid. We've taken an oath. We will treat them. We will treat them. But while respecting the preventative measures.
The Trump administration's pushing a new non-disclosure agreement that would apply to all federal workers.
We're finished.
The Office of Personnel Management posted a draft to the Federal Register on Tuesday, prohibiting workers from disclosing non-public, confidential, or proprietary information. It would also bar them from sharing sensitive internal materials not currently available to the public. The draft goes beyond standard classified and unclassified categories of information. The new rule targets leaks to news outlets and would broaden non-disclosure agreements already in place at the Pentagon and other federal agencies. Esha Bandari, director of the American Civil Liberties Union Speech Privacy and Technology Project, said, quote, "Such broad gag orders would leave the public in the dark about how the government works, preventing the kind of informed debate that's critical to democratic accountability. The government cannot shroud itself in secrecy in a democracy," unquote. A federal court blocked Alabama from using its new congressional map in this year's midterm elections, ruling it intentionally discriminates against black voters. The three-judge panel wrote in their ruling, quote, "We cannot see our way clear to requiring Alabamians to cast their votes in the 2026 elections under a districting plan tainted by intentional race-based discrimination," unquote. More than 1 in 4 residents of Alabama are black. Alabama's attorney general vowed to appeal the ruling to the Supreme Court, which last month struck down Louisiana's majority black congressional districts. Meanwhile, in South Carolina, the state Senate wrapped up its session Tuesday without voting on a new congressional map that would have dismantled the state's only majority black district. That's interesting. South Carolina's lawmakers quietly defied pressure from President Trump and the GOP to join the ongoing redistricting battle ahead of the midterm elections. And in Texas, the state's Attorney General Ken Paxton, backed by President Trump, defeated 4-term incumbent Senator John Cornyn in the Republican Senate primary runoff Tuesday. Paxton has previously been indicted on charges of felony securities fraud and was impeached from office on allegations of bribery, dereliction of duty, obstruction of justice, and abuse of public trust. Paxton is the first primary challenger to defeat an incumbent U.S. senator from Texas since at least 1980. The Republican candidate spent nearly $130 million, making it the most expensive Senate primary in U.S. history. Paxton now faces Democratic nominee, State Representative James Tallarico, in the general election in November. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you
And throughout it all, we will, in the words of Jason Terrence Phillips, better known as Jadakiss or Jay to the Moi, be outside.
Dude, he's the best.
And did his thing.
Yeah, can we get someone like that for LA, please?
That's fine. In New York, is it fine? How could it be anything but a plus?
Brand new comments from the New York artist Jadakiss, reflecting at our very table about Mayor Mamdani, not just quoting him, but doing so in his very first inaugural speech as mayor of New York. We're now 6 months in. Mamdani working on the budget, affordable housing. There's a pilot program for the free childcare that he promised as part of a more liberal agenda. He's also become a progressive leader within and beyond New York State. He's probably the most famous mayor in the country in either party. Certainly drew attention for a warmer than expected meeting with Donald Trump, while still the two clashing over immigration. And Mamdani stands by calls to abolish ICE and wanting to Trump-proof New York in the years ahead. These are things we explore when he sat down with us, and you're going to hear from him directly right now.
Housing continues to be the #1 cost that's pushing New Yorkers out of this city. You know, I used to be a foreclosure prevention housing counselor. I'd work with homeowners struggling to stay in their homes, and I found that this wasn't just an issue for tenants. It was also for homeowners who were facing the possibility of delinquency on their mortgage because they were on the precipice of not being able to make ends meet. And that was the case when I was a counselor, it was the case when I was an assembly member. It continues to be the case now that I'm running to be the mayor. And it's the #1 way that we can actually keep New Yorkers here is by ensuring that we bring down the cost of living.
Trying to say he didn't have any experience while
you talk about freezing rent. Is that something that you view as a bold new thing, or, as you've also mentioned, something that the mayor has the power to do that past administrations have done?
I think it's a mixture in that this clearly has precedent. We saw the previous administration did this 3 times. And we are living in a time of politics where politicians try to convince the public that there's nothing they can do. And so to even have the idea that we could actually help people, it's seen as a departure from what so many are being told in this moment. And freezing the rent, right, this is about 2.5 million New Yorkers in a city of 8.5 million. The mayor has the power to freeze their rent. I am saying I'm going to do that for 4 years. In stark contrast to the current mayor, Eric Adams, who's raised the rent by more than 12% and who decided that the person he saw his record most in anyone running for mayor was Andrew Cuomo.
Your campaign's making news with President Obama calling you. He says you're impressive to watch. Can you tell us what you talked about, and do you want his endorsement?
You know, I appreciated that conversation with the president. I appreciated his thoughts that he shared about our campaign. And I also shared with him that when I was facing the bigoted and racist attacks, especially that have amplified over the last few weeks, that I looked to his State of the Union, State of a More Perfect Union address as an inspiration for how to rise above the 24-hour news cycle of an electoral campaign and speak to the soul of the politics in our city and in our country. And I really appreciated the model that he presented.
You just say, dude?
Your platform says you'll raise the corporate tax rate to 11.5%, and you point out, just like neighboring New Jersey, that's 5B, and then tax the wealthiest 1% above basically people over millionaires, the flat 2% tax.
That's 4B.
Go ahead, 4B, okay? And so what does that get you, and what do you say to people who are concerned that New Yorkers are already taxed enough?
So that would get you $9 billion, and then we also said that we would save an additional $1 billion through procurement reform, through the following of the Independent Budget Office's analysis of hiring more fiscal auditors, and also by finally starting to collect on the fines and fees from landlords that owe this city currently about $800 million over a period of overall fines and fees of about $2.5 billion. So this is our revenue plan. This would more than pay for our economic agenda. It would actually allow us to start Trump-proofing our city. And what I mean by that is we're seeing right now what the Trump agenda portends for New Yorkers. This is a man who ran a presidential campaign on the premise of cheaper groceries that is now trying to cut SNAP benefits to make it even harder to afford those same groceries. And we have to protect the New Yorkers with the least from the attacks from the man with the most power in this country. For too long as Democrats, we've thought that simply fighting back against Donald Trump is a sufficient political message. We also have to fight for something. And so at the heart of my campaign is a commitment to make buses fast and free. That would cost around $700 million. That's something that fits firmly within the question of political reality. It's just, do we have the political will to deliver it? The other commitment is about universal child care. This is something that would cost around $6 billion, something the governor is very much interested in, has been fighting for quite some time. And I appreciate not only her endorsement, but also the shared commitment on this question of affordability.
You have spoken about these financial plans you have, and you made a point on New York radio, which a lot of people listen to address 50 Cent. And you know he's a critic.
He's a critic
of high taxes.
But let me just
go ahead and then we'll play it. Go ahead.
I didn't even know what my salary would be until I opened up Instagram and I saw this thing, which was like 50 Cent offers Mamdani X amount of money.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a very specific amount of money. And I was like, oh my God, that's so now we'll do this in reverse order. Sorry.
He said, I'll give you $258,000 and a first-class one-way ticket out of New York. That's what you're referencing.
You know, what I would say to you, 50, if you are indeed watching, or anyone else who's watching this show, is I continue to think that having the top 1% of New York City, who are making more than $1 million a year, having them pay 2% more for an economic agenda that would transform every New Yorker's life, including their own, is something that is worthwhile. And the reason I say including their own is when you see a city like ours that is underfunding its city agencies, that is pulling back on the most basic things like library services and trash cans, everybody feels the knock-on effects of that. And my job as someone who believes deeply in the public sector is to ensure that we're delivering public excellence. And that means every dollar that we raise, I want to be able to prove to you that it's every dollar that's being well spent.
My king. There we go. A little bit of.
You see what I mean when I say you're not really willing to say anything?
I just told you what I think. I'm telling you what I think. I do not
You're
want.
like the perfect example of an old school conservative that just won't say nothing.
I'm an old school liberal. But you don't know. You don't even know. That's what I mean.
That's what old.
That's what I mean.
That's what old style.
No, an old school conservative is Dick Cheney. It's like a rhino.
You seem pretty pro-war.
Again, I hate to be pedantic, but in what way is Dick Cheney a rhino? Jillian Michaels has been busy. She's really getting out there. Here's Jillian Michaels. She's on Matan Evans' stream. Now, I don't know if I fully get the Matan Evans thing.
You will once you watch this.
No, I've watched him before. I've seen like one or two other clips. And it's sort of like, is he? I don't know where you would place it, but I found it very, very interesting. Is he in L.A.? Do they do this in L.A. or did she fly to somewhere?
I'm not sure where they do that, but his whole brand is like, give him enough rope.
And you know what? She really doesn't know much about much. But here she is. What she does know is when you don't know the answer, the best thing to do is just laugh.
I said, what's your political opinion? You said common sense.
It is my political opinion.
Is absolutely a teller of where somebody stands.
Be specific. What's your political opinion? On which issue?
Israel.
Honestly, I don't think Israel is the root of all evil. I'm sorry.
You don't mind Israel?
I don't mind Israel. Here's my position on Israel. Everything that people take umbrage with Israel, I completely appreciate and understand, but I just wish they would apply those standards unilaterally. So if you're pissed off about money and politics...
Now, listen.
The fuck is she even saying?
Nobody mispronounces words more often than I. And, sometimes you use words incorrectly. But she uses it incorrectly like so many times in this. And, I don't want to be pedantic because that's not really the issue, because it really is the gist of what she's saying is really the bullshit. Mm-hmm. But the word she is looking for is not unilaterally. I don't know exactly what the word she's looking for. Equally, maybe?
Yeah.
Imbalance?
You apply these standards equally across the board, or maybe... But it is not unilaterally. Unilaterally means you're going alone.
Look how Israel behaves. They act unilaterally.
Right.
Although
that's in the back of our mind.
They attacked Iran with the United States, so they weren't unilateral in that.
But the other 6 countries.
But Israel.
Exactly.
The way she says it too, it's like I don't believe that you don't have an opinion about Israel if you're saying it that way. Seems like
I didn't catch that.
It sounds a little like that, and that's another thing I've noticed right-wing people doing now, because no one can defend the genocide, so they'll just be like, I don't like Israel, or I've never loved Israel. It's like, that's not the question. This is about how we orient our foreign policy.
You don't think that Israel's the root of all evil? You think evil comes from other places too? Is that possible?
Yes. Thanks for that straw man, Jillian.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think Israel is the root of all evil. I'm sorry.
You don't mind Israel?
I don't mind Israel. Here's my position on Israel. Everything that people take umbrage with Israel, I completely appreciate and understand, but I just wish they would apply those standards unilaterally. So if you're pissed off about money and politics, then you should also be pissed off about Saudi and Qatar and China and all those other lobbies. Apply it unilaterally. If you're pissed off about the wall between Israel and Palestine, that's totally fine, but you should also be pissed off about
I'm sorry.
the wall.
The problem for her is that it's not equivalent. Those countries have to register as foreign lobbying organizations in this country if they are lobbying our government. Correct. Israel and AIPAC does not have to do that because it doesn't function as a foreign entity. So it's an incorrect analysis to apply unilaterally to her argument. That's part of why the right-wing critiques of Israel are so shallow. It's because they talk about it as a foreign infiltrating entity as opposed to an outgrowth of the United States. They have it wrong in the sequencing.
I will also say that we have been for a long time against the billions upon billions of dollars in aid that we have provided for China on an annual basis.
Yes.
And so therefore, of course, that is why
the China lobby.
The China lobby. We have been so adamant that we should not be providing weapons to China. But let's hear. She goes on.
She's just mad at the hypocrisy of the left.
Yeah.
The problem with Bill Cosby wasn't raping.
Why are you specifically talking about? Like, nobody ever talked about the Uyghurs. Nobody ever demonized Russia when they invaded Ukraine. I mean, what are you talking about?
I mean,
this is insane.
Got the full plate of global affairs on her mind.
Oh, nobody was mad at Saudi Arabia. In fact, Biden, before he turned, Biden had sanctioned Saudi Arabia quite a bit at the beginning of the administration. Yep.
That's true.
But continue.
She's just a person trying to heal all the suffering in the world. All the suffering.
Yes, I just want fairness.
Yeah.
Apply it unilaterally. If you're pissed off about the wall between Israel and Palestine, that's totally fine, but you should also be pissed off about the wall between Palestine and Egypt. And
pause it for 1 second. Do you know who controls the wall between Palestine and Egypt? It is a country called Israel.
Yeah, huh? Why is that?
They have control of the I mean, Was Egypt? Do people think that Egypt had the option of allowing free passage outside of Gaza without Israel signing off?
And we also have propped up the Sisi regime in many ways because of his pliance about this kind of stuff.
But I also
basically
had
a puppet.
the idea that Israel was going to push all of the Palestinians out into the Sinai Desert is a little bit problematic. It's not like, you know, we would accept the I don't know, indigenous people being pushed out of Alaska and all streaming across the border in Detroit or something, like no problem, just
Palestinians in tunnels with their own excrement. Just apply it evenly. That's all I ask. Call something that you think is bad.
Sounds like you're just finding a way to justify it. Saying these guys also do bad things.
I think it's all terrible. I don't want to see anyone
So
die.
you think Israel is terrible, but other people are too?
I don't think Israel is terrible.
You said it's all terrible.
I think when someone dies, it's terrible.
You see what I mean when I say you're not really willing to say anything?
I just told you what I think. I'm telling you what I think. I do not
You're
want...
like the perfect example of an old school conservative that just won't say
No,
nothing.
an old school liberal. That you don't know. You don't even know. That's what I mean.
That's what old.
That's what I mean.
That's what
an
old
old school.
style.
No, an old school conservative is Dick Cheney. It's like a rhino.
You seem pretty pro-war.
You know, again, I hate to be pedantic, but in what way is Dick Cheney a rhino?
Yeah, how?
In what way
How's
is
he
Dick
a rhino?
Cheney
He didn't support Trump.
the
Duh.
former chief of staff for Richard Nixon?
He's a rhino.
The former Republican congressman, I don't
would
think he was
say.
senator, the vice president for 8 years. He was also chosen
Definitely wasn't
by.
right.
Oh, he also worked in the George Herbert Walker Bush administration as well. I don't know if there's anybody more associated with Republican politics over that time. And in what way is he a rhino? Like, you know, it's really beginning to occur to me that when Jillian Michaels decided to do this, to go from a fat shamer on The Biggest Loser or a coach into opining about politics, it never occurred to her to do any prep on what was going on. She just hears a
Read
word.
a book.
Yeah, read a book.
But maybe one that was published after I was born.
Exactly. One that's not from 1991. I mean, you should read books from 91 and from the 80s and the 70s, but don't stop there. Read some from the aughts and maybe in the teens.
Also, she's not. I'm not a Republican. I'm not Dick Cheney. He's a rhino.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
You know that thing that old liberals call people all the time is they call them
Rhinos.
rhinos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open conversation is the way of humans connecting.
Go ahead.
An old school conservative is Dick Cheney. It's like a rhino. It's
just
You
throwing
seem
out
pretty
words.
pro-war.
You think?
Yeah, that's how you come off. You just defended Israel for like 5 minutes.
I did not. I said.
Pretty much.
She's laughing now. This is her nervous tick.
And you said that it's all terrible.
People dying, I think, is terrible.
Even if it's Israel's fault. You see how you're not willing to go there?
Yeah, she's laughing.
It's like you have like a muzzle on.
Here's what I would say.
Damn.
I think what happened on October 7th was hideous. And when
I didn't ask about October 7th.
Oh!
Well, if I asked about it, then I'd expect an answer there.
All right. Well, my opinion is, I think
She's having so much
that was
fun. She
horrible.
can't help
I
but
wish
laugh.
That didn't happen, obviously, and I wish that everything proceeding. No, after that did not happen as well.
That's a real laugh. That's not out of.
Oh my God.
Like that, right? That's a real one. Something's very
I'm
funny
telling
happening.
you the truth, and I don't think that they're
I love
vulnerable.
him.
I don't. I do think that horrible things happen, and I think both sides have done things to each other throughout history. I'm certainly not an expert on it.
Are they a sponsor of your podcast?
They are not, but I'm more than willing to open up the books.
You would let them.
Would let them sponsor the book? No, open up the books for an audit. How much money are we talking, though, actually?
Would you let
I might
AIPAC
actually.
sponsor you?
If it's not $30, I might. How much?
How many views do you get per show?
It depends. Sometimes it's only like 50,000, but sometimes it's a couple 100,000. So how?
What does it average out
How
at?
much do you think I can make? Hold on. If I pull analytics, give me 1 second. You tell me you're better at this than me.
It's not the
Give me a
right.
sec. You tell me how much I can get. Where's my studio?
How do I change
Okay.
how do I change
Here we
this
go.
topic? Let's see.
Honestly, she should fake a phone call just to get out of this.
Why would you
I hope
give
he's
him
going
the
in
phone?
and
I know.
I'm not going to do it. If it's like $3 million.
It's like 75.
$75?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to. No.
But you're already doing all the stuff they want. They're basically just throwing you $75.
Nah. I still don't think so.
They say we appreciate all you say about Israel. All we want to do is just give you money. We know you're going to keep doing it anyways.
Yeah, but then there's a paper trail.
Well, I don't want to even. This is now getting.
She's
Yeah.
She's pondering it kind of sincerely, though.
No, she's just trying to figure out how the hell she gets out of this conversation.
guess.
He's trying to filibuster.
Yeah.
But the fact that she wouldn't even come out and just be like, I know, these are my actual authentic opinions seems a little bit odd to me.
I think. Look, it's a very uncomfortable place right now to be if you are a right winger.
Yeah.
And
Trying to defend
And I don't
this
think
shit.
that even she's probably even currently bought by Zionist money. I don't know that for sure, but I do think that there are a lot of people that don't want to foreclose that possibility.
Correct.
I doubt that she's getting paid directly by Israel, but I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, look, there's a lot of production. She has quite a production team, it seems to me. Just based upon who went through all our shows and looked at any time that we were critical
Gotta
of
watch
her
this.
over the course of a year. I mean, it was like 20 minutes worth of footage. And it was all like down to now. Maybe you can search transcripts, whatnot. I mean, but it takes a little bit of time. I would imagine she had sponsors. There's somebody's underwriting her show. Maybe she's doing it herself, but I imagine she has sponsors. And it's not necessarily that those sponsors are here, I'm sponsoring you to say stuff pro-Israel.
No, they
But
just
it's also
like what she
conceivable
says.
that, I know my sponsor, they are really more interested in their, health supplements, but they also really care about Israel.
Well, but you also genocide coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
They take phone calls, folks.
A lot of very happy people around.
A lot of
the
very
table.
happy
It's been a
people.
Great team.
Look at these new Trump hats.
Period of time for our country.
250th anniversary
Going
Trump
very well.
hats.
Number of jobs. We have more people working today
It's
than
my
we've ever
face
had
on
before in
Mount
the history of our
Rushmore.
country.
Oh my God, that's
And,
disgusting.
many other things, and I have a few words to say to you. that
Leftist audio.
I think will be helpful. Last night was incredible. Not only Texas, but so many other places. And
Keep your hand
numbers
down,
were
sir.
Fantastic, and they've really been that way for a year. If you look, it's hundreds of people won, and almost nobody didn't win. So, but last night was
Almost
very,
nobody didn't win.
very powerful. So I'm thrilled to welcome everyone
Double
to
negatives.
the 12th cabinet meeting of our administration, and we're doing something that no administration's ever done. We're always letting the press join us because we're very open and transparent. You like the word transparent, but we're more transparent than any administration in history. No, to the best of my knowledge, press has never been invited ever to a cabinet meeting for any reason at all. And it's an honor to have you. This team has achieved more than most other administrations achieve in 8 years. We took the most dangerous, unsafe, violent, and open border in the world. Anywhere in the world, there's no border like the border we had. And created the most secure border in the history of our country. We had no people, 12 months now, no people reported in the last 12 months came in illegally. 0 illegal aliens admitted to the United States in the last 12 months. And that's
Extraterrestrials?
Those charts are made by,
We got lots
you
of
would say,
them.
politically unfriendly people. And the reason they don't come in is because nobody comes up, because they know that they're going to be turned away, and if they get in, they're going to be moved out right away. So It's been zero. You're the one that do the reports. I'm actually surprised by the number because I don't know how it can be zero, but they say it's zero for the last 12 months. In 2025, we achieved the largest
I don't
drop
believe
in the
my
murder
own
rate
guys.
ever recorded. So the murder rate was quite high, and we achieved the largest drop in the murder rate ever recorded to the lowest level in 125 years. That's the year 1900. And that's despite the fact that many people came in from prisons and from very rough countries and from mental institutions and from lots of other places, drug dealers, others. They came in illegally during the Biden administration.
Yeah, drug dealers.
We've gotten many
famously
of them
a
out,
place.
but we still have some that we're looking for, quite a few that we're still looking for. But we've
Still
gotten
looking for that one
over
guy.
11,888 murders were allowed into our country. We've gotten a lot of them out. We've gotten some.
All
we put
those
them in jail. We don't even
gusanos.
trust the country to send them because they'll come back in maybe. We put them in jail. 11,888 murders, more than half of which have committed more than one murder. That's what they allowed in. They can never be forgotten for the horrible things they've done to this country. Fentanyl coming across our border is now down by 61%. 61%. And coming in by water, by sea, by ocean
Good to know.
is down 97%. Can you imagine? Thanks to our Republican majorities in Congress, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. All Democrats voted against the tax cuts, putting more money in Americans' pockets this year. The typical family got tax refunds of nearly almost close to $5,000.
No, we didn't.
The stock market has set 68 all-time record highs since the election. So 68 days, we hit all-time highs. We're right there now. And the average 401k, and that's despite the conflict. I don't call it a war, I call it a conflict. Despite the conflict with Venezuela, who no longer has a Navy, no longer has an Air Force, no longer has
Venezuela.
a lot of people that were leading the country
You meant
into very
Iran.
bad places. Their leadership is gone.
Shut up, old man.
Their second rung leadership is gone, and we're dealing with their third.
He meant Iran.
Because half of their third is gone, too. The average 401k is up almost $30,000 since I took office. So
What?
the Americans are benefiting working today. We have the most working, and we have 401ks at their all-time high. Highest they've ever been.
No.
And that goes along with the stock market, which is the highest it's ever been.
Along with gas
Under
prices,
my most
too.
favored nation agreements, this is something that I wish the
And pussy, too.
media would talk about, because to me it's one of the biggest things ever to happen in our country. Certainly as to medical, anything having to do with medical.
chemicals in the
Because drug prices, we're delivering record-setting discounts on prescription drugs with price differences of 400, 500, and even 600%.
Shut
at
up,
the
old man.
Trump RX.
I have the most disappointing news ever. JD Vance has been told that he is unpopular, and it is being rumored that he is not going to run in 2028. This disappoints me very much because I very much wanted him to run. I very much wanted him to be the focal point, the 3-time name change, the 3-time religious change, him like really sissy-like running in Disneyland after his kids. I wanted all the couch fucking. I wanted the eyeliner jokes. I wanted all of it. I wanted the oligarchs every single day to say, this is the prostitute you purchased. And this is how unelectable this guy is. Pop this up. The AF Post reports, on the heels of Gabbard's resignation, VP JD Vance is considering abandoning plans to run for president in 2028, according to the Daily Mail. Angie.
I also read probably 3 or 4 months ago that he was considering not running because of the new baby. And what I have to say of all of this, the only way he doesn't run after he has prostituted himself, after he has eaten his own words, after he has schlepped for Trump and sucked his dick for all this time, is if the oligarchs say, you're not popular enough to run. We won't give you the money. I don't think he has any type of like self-examination ability to say, this is not my time.
I agree.
And allies are advising Vance to skip 2028 so he doesn't have to, quote, own everything that's gone on in the last couple of years. So I want to focus in on that word, allies. He doesn't have allies. He has pimps. Peter Thiel is J.D. Vance's pimp. Elon Musk is J.D. Vance's pimp. J.D. Vance is a prostitute. I'm not trying to be crass. It's just simply not that deep. A lot of our politicians are prostitutes and they have their pimps. And the people who own these tech giants, all the AI shit, they invested heavily in J.D. Vance. And he went through the cycle. Comes out, whether it's true or not, that he likes to fuck couches. He wears varying degrees of eyeliners. Is a huge bigot, defends the Groyper movement, and Nick Fuentes will not stand up against bigotry when he himself has a wife of Indian descent and mixed race kids. It turns out that people don't like him. And most of all, Donald Trump doesn't like him, because I've been reporting and tracking now for 3 or 4 months. Donald Trump rat fucks J.D. Vance. And the rat fucking has been so successful that obviously the next heir apparent is going to be little Marco. And now Trump will rat fuck little Marco. Trump is not just this like, hey, we built this great movement. I want you to take the Republican Party over the finish line. No. That's not who this petty old queen is. He is not going to do that. And J.D. Vance has now added a new title to his portfolio, Party Crasher. Pop this up. J.D. Vance is officially a party crasher. The vice president was a surprise guest at the private dinner hosted by Chief Justice John G. Roberts. The New York Times reported Sunday the 41-year-old tagged along as a +1 to his pregnant wife, Usha Vance, who previously clerked for the George W. Bush appointee. And I just want to remind everybody that when Hillary was running in 2016, her husband, former President Bill Clinton, had a conversation with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac. And Fox News had a stage 5 meltdown. So it's always important to point out how hypocritical MAGA is. If Kamala Harris went to a dinner with the Supreme Court justices, everybody would have a meltdown, and kind of justifiably. It would be justifiable, like, hey, we can't do this shit.
I look at the Supreme Court and I think there have been so many ethical and moral violations by these sitting justices. Obviously you can look at Clarence Thomas, just Clarence Thomas. His wife, Jenny, she's like on the planning committee, whatever the name is, but she is on the top of the hill when it comes to planning the January 6th insurrection. He has never fucking once recused from a January 6th case in front of the court. You look at Alito, his wife is putting all these flags, and she feels so victimized that she can't be a bigot because of her husband's position. You're seeing how many cases John Roberts' wife, Brett Kavanaugh's wife, have had in front of the Supreme Court, the debts that have been paid off. Because they have cases in front of the Supreme Court. So does it surprise me that Usha Vance is there and J.D. Vance is there? No, because these people are unscrupulous and vile, and it is sickening that we have not done something as the Democratic Party, starting long before now, about these justices and the conflicts of interest they continue to have.
Well, and if you think about it, J.D. Vance has pimps, and he actually has the same pimps that John Roberts has.
That's right.
And this is corporate America. Yep. And so the Supreme Court justices, a lot of them are also prostitutes, and they share the same pimps. And that's why for them, they don't feel any sort of conflict of interest, because their interest is corporations. Their interest is that corporations have more power, corporations get more government handouts, and then we blame all the poor people for all of these problems that corporations dump on the American system.
The consumer.
And we completely propagandize to the public, you're the parasite. We never really identify who the parasite is, which are the corporations. And John Roberts
100%.
has had a bee in his bonnet to take it over the finish line for corporations to rule America
Yes, right. She
since
knows what's
before
up.
he was appointed by George W. Bush. And to belabor my point about the rat fucking by Donald Trump to J.D. Vance. Today, Donald Trump, I guess he heard that J.D. Vance wasn't going to run in 2028. So he decided to just, the knife's already in, he decided to twist it, get out a lemon and a lime, squirt that in there, and then shake it with salt because, pop this up, Politico is reporting Vance to host state AGs at White House for fraud task force meeting.
Nice.
Fraud task force. And so I believe it said here, the allies don't want J.D. Vance to own everything that's gone on in the last couple of years. Well, Donald Trump is going to make sure he owns every single bit of it. All of the Democratic attorneys generals have declined to attend this fraudulent bullshit party where the most fraudulent criminal, and I would agree with Trump that he is the most transparent president in history because I've never seen crimes committed so transparently and people taking victory laps about it. That's one thing they tell you that's actually true. And then let's check in on the opposition to all of this. Let's check in and see what the Democratic Party is up to. Graham Plattner in Maine will be the Democratic nominee. And Congressman Jake Auchincloss, a Democrat, has weighed in. Pop this up. Politics and Poll Tracker reports in an interview with CNN on Monday, Representative Jake Auchincloss, a Democrat from Massachusetts, says he finds Graham Plattner's tattoo disqualifying and hopes Maine voters agree with him. Auchincloss, I find that tattoo and his commentary about it to be personally disqualifying. I hope Maine voters agree with me. So, Jake Auchincloss, are you endorsing Susan Collins? Is that what you're doing here? Are you endorsing Susan Collins, who voted for alleged rapist Brett Kavanaugh, who then is in the Supreme Court, which has taken away rights from women in my home state of Oklahoma get an abortion if they're raped, to get an abortion if it's a life-saving procedure because something's wrong with the fetus? Yeah, that's what you're doing because you're playing patty cake with fascists because you yourself are a prostitute that has been purchased by the same pimps, the same AIPAC and pro-Israel lobbies that support Donald Trump. This is disgraceful. This is unbelievable. The people of Maine have spoken. And Graham Plattner has, he will take any interview at any time and talk about anything. You don't have to like him, but my God, you're endorsing Susan Collins, who, let's just talk about her record as opposed to the tattoo. Let's put both of those things side by side. Graham Plattner had a tattoo. He covered it up. He'll talk to anybody about it at any time, 24/7, 365. Susan Collins takes money from all the same dirty cop pimps that all of MAGA takes the money from. Every single turn, she parades around like she's this centrist, and she's not. She's a hardcore right-wing MAGA bigot that supports corporations, that supports victimizing the public. Shame on every Democrat like Jake Auchincloss that does this. He needs to be primaried. He needs to be sent the way the fuck out of the party. Just be MAGA. Be MAGA. The duplicity of some of these Democrats is so maddening.
Well, and it's history repeating itself. The establishment Democrats have some aversion to supporting and endorsing progressive candidates that do not want to toe the party line, that they want to be independent thinkers and voters in their positions. The mayor of New York, perfect example. Nobody wanted to endorse him. Now we have Graham Plattner. It's just interesting when you think about it. You have this autopsy. You've lost the election twice to Donald Trump, but it's just, let's stay with the party line. Let's not go out on a limb and listen to the base of the party. Let's just demonize and act ugly and be hateful about people that actually your voters want, which to me says you don't give a shit about what your voters want.
No, they don't, because again, they share the same pimps. So when you prostitute yourself out, and then a Graham Plattner does not prostitute himself out, when he takes no PAC money, Zoran Mamdani took no PAC money, and then you don't have a pimp all the people with pimps don't like you. And that's what that's exactly what's going on here. And then finally, I found this video of Megyn Kelly, and it's a timeline of all the things she's gone through with her support ebbing and flowing for Donald Trump. Play the clip.
With 3 of the 16 plus women who have accused President Trump of sexual misconduct. Trump is on record as saying he did this. And you are all familiar by this point with the Access Hollywood tape.
I don't think Donald Trump is a rapist or a sexual assaulter. I do think he's taken inappropriate liberties with women and gotten handsy with them in a way he's owned himself. And it is what it is. That's the past. I don't give a shit about Trump getting handsy with somebody 20 years ago. Ivana, his first wife, accused him of raping her.
Wow.
Back and forth.
I mean, so there you have it. Like, the bottom line is these people believe in nothing. Megyn Kelly is a financial Darwinist. She is going to follow along with whatever she can do for clicks. These people literally believe in nothing. It is such a layup as a human being to say, I oppose sexual assault against women. That is my North Star when it comes to this. And then you never have to venture off of that. And it doesn't matter if it's Bill Clinton, if it's somebody in your political party, one of your political enemies, you just oppose it across the board. This is something that comes very natural to me, having conviction about these things. I've noticed with MAGA, this is not something that comes natural to them. It's something that they're able to ebb and flow, believe in for a second when it's convenient, then disbelieve in it when it's inconvenient, and on and on. And this, to me, this little clip perfectly personifies the MAGA movement and how they are total, hardcore, opportunistic nihilists.
Well, and you look at Megyn Kelly, she, regarding Epstein, well, I mean, they told me they weren't that young. They were only like 15. That's a fucking child. It's against the law. Like, shut up. And then when you think about her ability to say all these things about the war with Iran, all the ramifications, and she still says on that same show, well, I'd vote for Trump. It's just like, you don't get to sit there and lecture people, particularly Democrats that are steadfast in beliefs, about your moral high ground. I mean, this woman is a shapeshifter, and the word of the day is a prostitute, and financial Darwinism might be the best thing I've ever heard. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right, listen, a great way to support our channel is to pre-order my book. It is called Not Today, Fascist. The fascists are the pimps and the politicians are the prostitutes. I talk about this extensively. I talk about more than anything about the through line that I see from authoritarian religions, authoritarian parenting styles, all the way to fascism.
It's a good book.
So please pre-order my book, and we'll be back later with more news.
Best of friends, you can tell.
Bill Maher did this long rant smearing opponents of Israel's genocide as anti-Semitic, and it really is just worth taking it apart.
Yeah, thank you,
because
sir.
It is so dreadful, but so
It
revealing.
is so dreadful,
And actually, it's quite interesting because this so-called comedian, TV presenter in the US and so on, but so-called comedian fell flat on his face. His audience, who are probably the closest to the Bill Maher superfan demographic as you like to get, like, you could tell from their laughter, a lot of them, they weren't buying it. We're going to take this apart because it shows what a load of crap the arguments in favor of Israel and its heinous crimes are. It's going to be a useful exercise. I'm really sorry that I'm going to have to subject you to Bill Maher. We'll get through this together, you and I. Let's start with this segment.
And finally, new rules since yesterday was Israel's birthday. Having become a nation on May 14th, 78 years ago, everyone must either wish her a happy birthday or admit they're anti-Semitic. Now, it's everyone's right in a free country to be anti-Semitic, but enough with hiding behind Israel or Zionism or Netanyahu. If you think, as so many do now, that when it comes to human rights, Israel is the monster country of all time, you either don't read or you don't care about your own hypocrisy.
Fuck you.
Because there are so many worse places. But that's where we are these days. No Jews, no news.
Anti-Semitic.
But China, Russia, the Sudan, Iran, Myanmar, Haiti, the Congo, North Korea, all way worse. And that's how you know it's anti-Semitism. It's the inconsistency.
Do you see what I mean about the laughter? I mean, it was awkward, actually, kind of embarrassing. It gets worse as well. Now, what he does here is play the classic game of whataboutery, which is to deflect from Israel's heinous crimes by going, what about the rest of the world? What about all these other terrible crimes that are being committed? Now, this very same argument, by the way, was used against opponents of apartheid South Africa, and specifically those who wanted the US government to stop being allied, in essence, to the Pretoria regime, to stop helping to facilitate apartheid by refusing to take the action required, like sweeping sanctions, instead treating it as a Cold War ally. Now, I'll give you a quote from Ronald Reagan, who was president of the United States at the time. He said this in 1985. South Africa is not a totalitarian society. There is a vigorous opposition press. Every day we see examples of outspoken protest and access to the international media that would never be possible in many parts of Africa or in the Soviet Union for that matter. Sound familiar? I mean, it's the exact same argument you've constantly heard. The only democracy in the Middle East, etc. You've heard all of this. They literally use the same argument in the case of apartheid South Africa. Now, there's always been, or should have been, a consensus. So there hasn't always been, but during apartheid South Africa and beyond, there was supposed to be a consensus that there is a unique horror about racist supremacy.
Right.
About states which enshrine the superiority of one ethnic group over another. That has a specific horror. That's not to say there are not other horrors. There are not other terrible regimes. But that is something
we're not talking about
apartheid South Africa, people
we are not
mobilized
talking
against
about
as they are in the case
currently
of Israel. And what Israel is doing,
there is no one in the world doing genocide like Israel is doing it. There is no one, no other country right now.
Much worse than apartheid South Africa. Not to belittle the crimes of apartheid South Africa, by the way. Now, he goes through this whole list of other states. Now, before I just take that argument on, it's notable how he mentions China's treatment of the Uyghur Muslims, which I've written about and condemned, by the way. Now,
of course,
if Bill Maher, I mean, does he consider that to be genocide? Some people have argued that. You know, that isn't the consensus. It's not the same with Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people. Because if it does, there has been no mass industrialized killing of the Uyghur Muslims. By the way, I'm not being an apologist for the crimes committed against the Uyghur Muslims. Far from it. The point actually here is that terrible crimes can take different forms. In this case, the claims rest on the use, for example, of camps, of detention centers, birth control, destruction of religious and cultural life, separation of children from parents. These are very serious charges, by the way. I should make that very, very clear. But, people like Bill Maher have argued, well, how can Gaza be genocide when not everyone was killed? I mean, that's essentially the argument. I mean, in the case of China and the Uyghur Muslims, you haven't had the level of killing at all that you've had in Gaza. So if he's saying that is a terrible crime, and again, I happen to believe the Chinese treatment of Uyghur Muslims is completely outrageous. But if he considers that so awful, then what does he think about Gaza? I mean, that's just, I think, quite a striking point, by the way. But the really key point here in terms of what he went through with all these other often terrible crimes, they're not crimes facilitated and armed by our governments.
Correct.
The whole point of Israel's genocide and long-standing oppression of the Palestinian people is it is all made possible by the West. Without the West, this oppression would not be possible.
Correct.
Israel is the biggest recipient of US military aid of any country on earth since World War II. It's not just the military support, but also other forms of aid in terms of also diplomatic and political support. All of that is provided by the West. Israel, in essence, is an extension of the West, and they see themselves as such. I mean, that's the point. We have leverage over what Israel is doing.
They're literally running our country right now.
Over these other countries. The countries that it often goes through are countries which are sanctioned by the West.
Bruv, I wish you could talk to me. They're literally running our country. Israel is running policy for America right now. Through Bill Maher, through Fox News, through Trump.
Which are under military embargo by the West.
It's actually
They're
disgusting.
They're not crimes that we are facilitating, that we are making possible. In the West, we have leverage over our own governments. That's the leverage we have.
No, we don't.
Our governments are facilitating these crimes.
No, we don't.
These crimes are being committed in our name. That's not the same with foreign governments which are opponents of the West. It doesn't mean, by the way, that those regimes which are hostile to the West or not in the West sort of sphere of influence doesn't mean they can commit terrible crimes. Of course that's true. But we have leverage over our own government. Let's continue.
What leverage?
They went nuts last year at Coachella for...
We don't have leverage. He talks about Hassan.
Kneecap. That's the name of an Irish rap group. As if Ireland hasn't suffered enough.
What?
Their stage set is a sign that says, "Fuck Israel." And then they send a beach ball around the crowd. Again, ha-ha. Because again, Israel is the only country in the world doing anything bad. I see why the meathead manosphere and the Code Pink people are on the same page, because they both went to high school in America and they don't know anything. So we...
Again, notice the uncomfortable stunted laughter. Now, again, no one is arguing Israel is the only country in the world doing terrible things.
No.
But what we are arguing is that the oppression of the Palestinian people goes back many generations.
Any amount.
It's a long-standing crime that has been committed for generations, that it's facilitated by the West.
90
and
years.
that it has culminated in the crime of crimes, genocide. There is no worse crime than genocide. It is the ultimate crime. And that crime is facilitated by our governments and by the West. That is the point. That is why there is so much anger and fury and also determination to do something, because the whole point is,
and there's no room for nuance.
Does if
genocide is not nuanced. There's no, if only half the population was dead, then it wasn't genocide. No, that's not how it works, motherfucker.
The US, he's an American citizen, Bill Maher. If they pulled the plug, Israel would have to stop its genocide. That would be the end.
Literally
immediately,
right.
In fact,
even Owen Jones knows this.
Are using their
not even American.
Collective power. That's why there's so much focus on what Israel is doing.
Jesus.
Because the argument is, if our government, in the case of the US, ceases to provide them with arms and all the other support that Israel receives, they would no longer be able to commit the ultimate crime, genocide.
Correct.
That's the whole basis. We'll talk more about the point about genocide, which obviously he's a genocide denier.
But they would have to send in their actual kids to root out the houses, and they would end up dying just like our kids died in Iraq. And they know it. Israel knows it. Israel knows they can't do it without us. 100%. Everyone knows this. God, fucking Trump.
We'll talk more about that. And as I said, it's the biggest, again, the US and Israel are inseparable, essentially. I mean, the British ambassador to the US recently said that essentially the only special relationship that exists that the US has is with Israel. They're almost fused in terms of the level of cooperation and alliance, which we can see playing out with their joint war on Iran.
100%.
Now, he talks about the education system in the US, basically, this just shows that people's views have been shaped and people have been brainwashed. That's not what's happened, because people have actually been raised, alas, to erase the Palestinian people. They've been, in the dominant
no one
sort of
talks about
in the United
Palestinians
States,
when
what
you're
people
growing
are
up in
encouraged to
America.
believe
They do now.
is that Israel are the good guys.
10 years ago?
That they're our allies, and that Palestinians are terrorists, and that Palestinians are demonized as such.
Even the news wouldn't say the word
and that Israel is just
Palestinian.
trying to protect itself. That's the dominant view which has been shoved down Americans' throats.
Correct.
Now, what's changed in the last few years is Israel committed a live stream genocide.
Right.
And what happened
They
is
basically
people
stuck their
were
own foot in
able
their
to
face.
see firsthand, yes, on social media, we'll come on to that, on social media, without the Western media filtering it, because that's what the Western media have done. They've airbrushed what Israel have done. They've airbrushed the atrocities. They've airbrushed the statements of genocidal intent.
Everything.
They've airbrushed Palestinian voices.
The
We could go on.
rapings.
They've learned often what Israel is doing because they can see with their own eyes. And that's why, partly, 50% of Americans now think Israel is committing genocide.
Correct.
Compared to 35% who don't. That was a poll a few months
Wow.
ago. Now, if he's saying the education
It's
system is
50%
bad
now?
and that's why
Hell
people
yeah, let's
are
go.
anti-Israel, well, that actually doesn't make any sense because until recently, the United States was pro-Israel.
Right.
Its public opinion before the genocide was decisively in favor of Israel compared to
Look
the
at that.
Palestinians. So the argument
Look
there,
at
if you're
that
saying, well, this
crossover.
shows,
That's
that
insane,
people are
actually.
become anti-Israel and this is, it's afraid of the American education system. Well, if he's going to do down the American education system, well, that makes the opposite point because clearly what's happened in the last 2.5 years, it's not the education system that's made people become hostile towards Israel. It's the fact they've watched Israel commit every possible war crime there is to commit.
Because they've just tripled down
That's
on
what's
it.
changed. And that has undone the brainwashing, essentially, or
Yeah.
the pro-Israel education that they've received. Let's continue.
So we really could someday soon have the tiki torch Jews will not replace us crowd and the Queers for Palestine people working together to elect the next Hitler. There's a
What?
North Carolina teenager
What
who's
is
been
he
charged
saying?
with plotting to drive through a synagogue to fulfill her life goal of killing as many Jews as possible.
Okay.
Because a kid's got to have a dream.
Well, here we go. I mean, what he's doing here is equating neo-Nazis who hate Jewish people and want to
Correct.
exterminate Jewish people, who support
Correct.
genocide, to people who oppose apartheid, illegal occupation,
Me.
illegal colonization, and genocide.
He's
Equating
trying
people
to
who are
horseshoe
pro-genocide
theory
and
us.
anti-genocide. That's what he's doing. People who are driven literally by a belief in ethnic supremacy and people who oppose ethnic supremacy. They're the same, apparently, according to Bill Maher. Now, I think it's striking, if we're going to talk about the far right, let's talk about Richard Spencer, shall we? Far-right white supremacist. I think he's probably one of the most striking examples of American far-right white nationalism. He was interviewed on Israeli television a few years ago, and he said
He's a fucking
to the presenter,
shitbag.
as an Israeli citizen, someone who understands your identity, who has a sense of nationhood and peoplehood and history and experience of the Jewish people, you should respect
Fucking shaders.
and genocide, equating people who are pro-genocide and anti-genocide. That's what he's doing. People who are driven literally by a belief in ethnic supremacy and people who oppose ethnic supremacy. They're the same, apparently, according to Bill Maher. Now, I think it's striking, if we're going to talk about the far right, let's talk about Richard Spencer, shall we? Far-right white supremacist. I think he's probably one of the most striking examples of American far-right white
Spencer's a
nationalism.
piece of
He was
shit.
interviewed on Israeli television a few years ago, and he said to the presenter, as an Israeli citizen, someone who understands your identity, who has a sense of nationhood and peoplehood and history and experience of the Jewish people, you should respect someone like me. I care about my people. I want to have us to have a secure homeland for us and ourselves, just like you have a secure homeland in Israel. He called himself a white Zionist. Now, it's striking that in Europe, for example, far-right parties are the most pro-Israel. Why? Because they see Israel as an example. They see it as an ethno-state with ethnic supremacy, which is anti-Muslim. That's how they see it. That's what they want to emulate. I mean, that's just a fact. If you look at the European far right across the board, they are the ones who are passionately pro-Israel. Why do you think that is, Bill? Do you think it's because they're, oh, we just love Jewish people? Do you honestly think that? Do you believe that? What's the proof? Now, he mentions there this girl from North Carolina who talks about wanting to kill Jews. That's an anti-Semite. That's who, we should agree on that. Somebody who wants to murder Jewish people is an anti-Semitic racist. They need to be opposed. And what we have to do is demarcate Jewish people and the state of Israel and its crimes. Because blurring Jewish people and the state of Israel and its crimes drives and fuels anti-Semitism. It's just, there's no point pretending otherwise. If you encourage people to believe that Jewish people are collectively guilty and responsible for what Israel has done to the Palestinian people, you are fueling anti-Semitism. That's why you have to have a divide. And we'll talk about that because in America, the statistics show, they show very clearly that Jewish Americans cannot be treated as synonymous with Israel and its crimes. We'll come on to that. Let's continue.
Yeah, Israel was founded on the idea that anti-Semitism made a Jewish state necessary because Jews would never be safe without one.
Slipped up.
Can you honestly listen to this rhetoric and not see why that turned out to be true?
Yes.
If you don't have the right-wingers on your side, and you don't have the progressives, what do you have? What's more progressive than college, where professors now say things that would make Kanye wince?
What?
Osman Omgarji calls Zionists bloodthirsty animals. Who's he, the leader of ISIS? No, he's a professor right here in California at UC Irvine.
He talks there about this argument in favor of Israel that, well, look, it shows, or the argument is that it's, you know, the reason it had to be founded is that anti-Semitism makes it necessary because Jewish people would not be safe otherwise. Where's it been safer to be Jewish since World War II? Where's it been safer? Has it been safer to be Jewish in Israel, or has it been safer as a Jewish person in the United States or Britain? Were you more likely as a Jewish person to be violently killed? Were you more likely to, I don't know, be involved in war and conflict directly? And it's just empirically untrue, isn't it? It's not true. And indeed, another obvious point is that, you know, Israel isn't this protector of Jewish people on a global scale.
Nope.
And it hasn't acted as such. A really striking example,
fact,
Argentina in the 1970s ruled
I would say,
by a far...
I will say this with my full heart. I feel like Israel, the Israel Zionist project, has done more harm to the Jewish identity because of misconflating trying to co-opt being Jewish.
Right dictatorship, which disproportionately targeted Jewish people.
Right.
Far more likely than the rest of the population to be arrested and to be killed and disappeared. And there were countless examples of them being tortured and so on by Argentine soldiers and agents of the regime, singing Nazi songs and dressing up in Nazi regalia and all the rest. And Israel armed that regime. It facilitated its crimes. It was, you know, it wasn't opposed to that Argentinian regime, far from it.
Right.
If it was this great savior of Jewish people globally, then it would have been at the forefront of opposing the Argentinian far-right dictatorship. Now, he talks about this academic, which, you know, I don't know about the academic, I don't know about his history, I don't know about his wider views. What I would say is, it should be important to demarcate between Zionism, a political movement, and Jewish people. Now, what he's talking about, when people are talking about, I don't know, bloodthirsty animals, have you not seen what the Israeli state have done to Gaza? Have you not seen the bloodthirsty actions of the Israeli state? Now, trying to suggest people's anger about that is driven by hatred of Jewish people is a lie. It's just a lie.
Cool.
But if we're going to
I don't have to transfer
statements, why are we going for obscure professors with no power or influence in a meaningful sense?
I want my building
rather than statements from the rulers of Israel. Why doesn't Bill Maher talk about Yoav Gallant, the former defense minister of Israel,
Fucking
who
Yoav.
is a wanted man because the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant because of the war crimes and crimes against humanity, which he's responsible for? He said, Israel is imposing a complete siege on Gaza. This was in October 2023. No electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals and we are acting accordingly. What matters more, an obscure American academic talking about Zionists being bloodthirsty animals, or the Israeli defense minister imposing a total siege on the grounds that the people in Gaza are human animals? Now people go, no, he didn't mean that. He didn't mean that. He meant Hamas. He meant Hamas. He's talking about a siege imposed on civilians. It's not some siege which is magically targeting Hamas. But in any case, we can immediately disprove that because on the same day, Major General Ghassan Alian, the Israeli army coordinator of government activities in the territories, or KOGAT, the civilian arm, in charge of things like humanitarian supplies, supposedly, he said on the same day, Hamas became ISIS and the citizens of Gaza are celebrating instead of being horrified. Human beasts are dealt with accordingly. Israel has imposed a total blockade in Gaza, no electricity, no water, just damage. You wanted hell, you will get hell.
Wow.
Has Bill Maher ever condemned that statement? Does he know it's ever
Never.
been issued? What does he think about it? What does he think about that statement? Because there's no ambiguity there. He's literally talking about the citizens of Gaza being human beasts who will suffer collective retribution, that they will suffer a total blockade of the means of life, electricity and water, and that they will suffer, the citizens of Gaza, damage, just damage. You wanted hell, you will get hell. The tweet itself, because it was a video posted on the 9th of October on Kogat's official account, is addressed to Hamas and the citizens of Gaza. No ambiguity. He's talking about the people of Gaza. He's talking about civilians in Gaza. That includes elderly people. It includes toddlers. It includes newborn babies. And what's more, Bill, it did in practice. Because tens and tens of thousands of innocent people were slaughtered, including over 1,000, conservative estimate, babies. Under the age of 1 is what I'm talking about there. So here is just this basic point. All the way through the genocide, there's this constant focus on statements by those who oppose murdering huge numbers of people as being problematic, as being hateful, as being extreme, as being dangerous. Whilst the Israeli state, its leaders, just issue a relentless torrent of genocidal intent and incitement and acted on it.
Exactly.
By doing what they said they were going to do, which is what I read out. They did all that. But we focus on the statement of, in this case, an academic I checked on social media. He's got 2,000 followers. No offense to him. Rather than the people who actually run Israel, who run the army, and say things which they don't act on. It's the world turned on its head. There's more examples of that. Let's continue.
Now, there are absolutely horrible things said about Muslims, too. That should also be, of course, roundly condemned, like Republican Congressman Randy Fine saying, if they force us to choose, the choice between dogs and Muslims is not a difficult one. That's awful. But it's not the same as they need to be nuked, and let's exterminate them. This is why Jewish people here and in Europe now say they sometimes hide their identity, afraid that the Star of David will get them attacked, as has happened in almost too many places to mention lately. Leave your Star of David at home, but the kafaya,
come on.
You can wear that anywhere. You can wear it to Fiddler on the Roof and you'll get applause.
Goodness me, where to begin? Randy Fine, he mentioned Randy Fine, this racist, genocidal, I'm going to say it, genocidal Republican politician, congressman. He quotes that one example of, if forced to choose between dogs and Muslims, sort of difficult one. He goes, he admits that's bad, but it's not. He said it's not the same as saying people need to be nuked. What? He's just lying to people. Lying by omission is a lie, by the way. It's still deception. Randy Fine has called for extermination, including dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza. Let me just read some statements Randy Fine's issued, which Bill Maher failed to quote and read out to his audience. In reference to mainstream Muslims, he said, I don't know how you make peace with those who seek your destruction. I think you destroy them first. He was talking about mainstream Muslims in that context.
Right.
So he's talking about destroying mainstream Muslims. He said about Gaza, there is no suffering adequate for these animals. May the streets of Gaza overflow with blood. He also tweeted, Palestinian, in inverted quotes, equals Hamas. Hashtag bombs away. Again, genocidal. He regards Hamas as legitimate military targets. He regards Palestinians as synonymous with Hamas, and therefore he's saying that they should all be treated as such by murdering them with bombs. That's what that tweet means. He said, Gaza must be destroyed. Not leaving any room for doubt. And it's funny, or not, it's nothing funny about this, but, we talk about this as kind of, well, that's a heinous, is that a heinous thing or not to say? Gaza has been destroyed. That's the point. Saying something should be destroyed, a whole territory, we accept that as a terrible, monstrous thing to do, to say it. But he just erases all of that. Like he erases the erasure of Gaza. I mean, it's quite an interesting one. If someone said, due to Israel, what's been done to Gaza, how would Bill Maher treat that? He'd struggle with the cognitive dissonance there, because he'd be like, oh, well, because they haven't, it's not that, what they've done to Gaza isn't that bad, but that's calling for the destruction of Israel. He would have to accept it's calling for the destruction of Israel. That's what he'd have to accept. Do you say, due to Israel, what Israel did to Gaza, if you called for that, that would be regarded as incitement, or would it? Because then you'd have to accept what's happened to Gaza. How would his brain cope with that? I mean, he says, this is the other quote, Randy Fine, in World War II, we did not negotiate a surrender with the Nazis. We did not negotiate a surrender with the Japanese. We nuked the Japanese twice in order to get unconditional surrender. That needs to be the same here. There's something deeply wrong with this culture and it needs to be defeated. So we're talking about a nuclear bomb in Gaza, which would again, I mean, immediately have erased Gaza off the face of the earth. But that's what's happened, but it would mean nuclear radiation and making it even more unlivable than it's been made, because it's been made intentionally unlivable. They've destroyed agriculture. They've destroyed livestock. They've destroyed, 83% of plant life. They've made the conditions of life impossible to live in, which is what genocide does. Now, he talks about attacks on Jewish people, and we'll talk about further in the next segment. And obviously, all attacks on Jewish people are unacceptable. Anti-Semitism must be fought. What he tries to do is belittle.
I know, it's disgusting.
Forms of violence, which, for example, Palestinian Americans suffer. Because he says, well, you can wear the keffiyeh anywhere and you won't suffer any consequences. Right. Tell that to Tassin Ali Ahmed. Tell that to Kinan Abdelhamid. And tell that to Hisham Awatani. They're the 3 Palestinian American students who were all shot in the United States in 2023 while wearing a...
Yep. He literally is wrong.
Keffiyeh. Did you know they existed? Did you?
No, he doesn't.
Bill. But they don't matter. They don't matter, do they? Because they're Palestinian Americans. So they're not part of the script. What about other violence against Palestinian Americans? Should we talk about that? Should we talk about how in October 2023, a 6-year-old Palestinian American boy was stabbed to death by his landlord, who also attacked his mother, yelling, "You as a Muslim must die"?
Right.
Why do you erase that, Bill? Did you know this happened? Or did you care? And if you didn't know it happened, what does that tell you about the significance given to, in this case, Palestinian American life? And if you did know, then what does it say about the significance you personally attach to Palestinian American life? Let's continue.
Jew hatred isn't just acceptable now, it's cool. Celebrities love it and make it trendy. It's the new Che Guevara t-shirt.
What?
The Islamophobia is just as
I used to
bad
have one of
argument
those.
is simply a false equivalency. Can you name a Jewish professor who talks about Muslims the way they get talked about? No. Anti-Jewish crimes, hate crimes, now outpace anti-Muslim hate crimes 9-1. It's not a contest, and I'm certainly not saying do more of the other. I'm just saying these are the numbers, the facts, the reality.
When he talks about celebrities here, he's equating anti-Semitism with opposition to Israel's crimes. Because celebrities, not enough celebrities, but some celebrities have spoken out about Israel's genocide, and he's calling them anti-Semitic. That's what he's doing. But actually, celebrities who've spoken out, overwhelmingly, those who've spoken out, the all too few, don't like innocent people, including little kids, being slaughtered. That's what's happened.
It's not hard
now,
to
he
understand.
gives these statistics about anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim hate crimes. And firstly, there's no question that actual anti-Semitic hatred and violence has increased. And we need to defeat it. We need to take it down. That includes, by the way, the likes of Donald Trump, who repeatedly has made anti-Semitic statements, equating, suggesting that the dual loyalty trait for Jewish Americans, saying that they have to vote for him, otherwise it's disloyal to Israel, that kind of stuff. Doesn't talk about that. But these statistics that he gives are not comparing like and like in terms of the headline figures, because there are twice as many Jewish Americans for a start as there are Muslim Americans. So, that, I mean, just at the kickoff. But also, while there are genuine anti-Semitic incidents and attacks and examples of hatred online, the Anti-Defamation League, which supposedly documents the levels of anti-Semitism, well, that's a staunchly pro-Israel organization, and they went through their database. Zateo, went through their database. And what Zateo found were, well, in this case, the 33 most absurd examples of things which were included as though they were anti-Semitic. One was, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's just, again, it's just a lie to say that's anti-Semitism. In the founding charter of Likud, Benjamin Netanyahu's party, it says there will only be Israeli sovereignty between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea.
It's like, okay.
So, I mean, it's fine to say that on the pro-Israel side and make it a reality, where the reality actually is committing genocide in Gaza and illegally occupying the West Bank and colonizing it. But if you call for Palestine to be free on the Palestinian side, that's genocide and that's anti-Semitic. Completely ludicrous. Another flyer that was included as anti-Semitic, and I'm not joking, was Love Jews, Hate Zionism. That was included as anti-Semitism. Doesn't help, does it, opposing actual anti-Semitism when these are all equated. Now, what about Bimar himself? Because he talks about this. Oh, well, you can't say this about, it's the Jewish people. It's the only group where this is acceptable, when actually all hatred against all groups, including Jewish people, should be unacceptable.
Actually, what's
Bill Maher
acceptable
once said the Muslim
is...
world has too much in common with ISIS.
Yeah.
He once said, Islam is the only religion that acts like the mafia that will fucking kill you if you say the wrong thing. He said, where were you during the Boston Marathon when he put up an image of Zayn Malik, the pop star, British pop star from One Direction, suggesting because Zayn Malik is this, visibly, he's of Asian heritage and Muslim heritage.
Yeah, I know, right?
He was talking about the Boston Marathon terrorist attack. So that's the sort of thing he can say about Muslims. And then he starts to lecture people who oppose Israel's genocide as being racist bigots. Let's do this. We're nearly the end. Let's talk about this next clip.
There is a frothing anxiousness for the literal extermination of this one group. And Democrats, where are you? If any other minority group was being talked about this way, you'd break out the kente cloth and have 10 benefit concerts. But because you see that so many of your brainwashed by TikTok constituents now have an unfavorable view of Israel, you indulge them when you should be correcting them. You don't tell your woke idiots Israel isn't a colonizer or an apartheid state or committing genocide, and that if you brats had to spend a week anywhere in the Middle East other than Israel, you would understand what liberalism is not.
In terms of his attacks on Democrats, I mean, firstly, Democrats armed and backed Israel's genocide under Joe Biden, and they conflated opposition to Israel's crimes with anti-Semitism like you did. He talks about people being brainwashed by TikTok. The truth is that people saw on social media unfiltered examples of what Israel was saying and doing. That's what happened.
We saw it all.
Now, I mean, he says Israel isn't a colonizer. Literally, what are you on? What are you on?
Right.
What do you call the settlements in the illegally occupied West Bank? How can you possibly not say that's colonization?
Bro?
It's like a dictionary definition. It's colonial settlements being set up in Palestinian land, which is illegally held by Israel. How is that not colonization? I mean, in terms of the genocide, your genocide denial, Gaza's been wiped out. Donald Trump said that actually last year, over a year ago. He said a whole civilization in Gaza is over. I mean, that's what he's referring to. He's talking about genocide.
Yeah.
He didn't say genocide, but that's what he means. But for you to disparage the idea that Israel has committed genocide as though it's absurd and ludicrous, what about genocide scholars, Bill? What about Israeli-American and Israeli scholars of genocide, like Omar Bartov, Dean's Professor of Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Brown University, who said, I've been teaching classes on genocide for a quarter of a century. I can recognize one when I see one. What about the Israeli Professor of Holocaust History at the Department of Jewish History and Contemporary Jewry at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Amos Goldberg, who also says it's genocide? What about Daniel Blattman, head of the Institute for Contemporary Jewry at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem? I could carry on.
Right.
These are people who dedicate their lives to studying genocide. They know genocide inside out. They study the Holocaust. They're preeminent.
So I mean, shut the fuck up,
They publish
loser.
between them multiple books about the Holocaust.
To Bill Maher, of course.
Now, you might go, well, just because they're scholars, doesn't mean they're automatically right about it. You have to accept that if somebody is an expert in genocide, and in this case, they're Israeli, and they're talking about the actions of their own government, they must have some pretty compelling evidence to arrive at their conclusion.
Correct.
You can't just dismiss them as, thick, delusional, idiots?
What? No, they're called...
you know more about
self-hating
genocide,
Jews.
some washed-up comedian who presents...
It's self-hating Jews, mate.
Crap TV shows. You think you know more than preeminent Israeli
That's
scholars
right.
of genocide?
Well,
And what about
self-hating
Jewish
Jews,
Americans?
I hate
Bill?
that word.
Because you
I don't
see,
even wanna say it
2/3,
again.
according to the polling of Jewish Americans, think Israel has committed war crimes in Gaza.
I can't believe any
39%, this is
respectable
out of date
Jew would
polling,
even
by the
say
way,
that.
39% think Israel has committed genocide, and that rises to 50% amongst Jewish Americans who are under the age of 35. What about them? Do you think they're bigots and anti-Semites as well? Where does this end, Bill?
Yeah.
You say, go to the Middle East and you'll see what liberalism is.
Where's this end, Bill?
The liberalism so-called that exists in Israel is for Jewish Israelis. And even then, it has huge caveats, because if you deviate from, the norm, as in you oppose the genocide or not, then the state will come down on you very hard.
Correct.
But what about the 3 million Palestinians, for example, in the West Bank? Do you think they're living under liberalism? Is that liberalism? Do you think literally an illegal occupation in violation of international law, where the Palestinian population
of course
are under military rule, where you have civil courts for the Jewish settlers and military courts for Palestinians, where Israel is the only country on earth that routinely puts children through military courts? Do you think that's liberalism?
That's disgusting.
Where you have kangaroo courts, where the trials last a few minutes and the proceedings are in Hebrew with the presiding judges and IDF soldiers. Is that liberalism to you? Is it liberalism to also detain people without charge or trial indefinitely? Is that liberalism? Is it liberalism to shoot children through the head and the neck if they throw stones at the Israeli army? Is that liberalism as well? I've been to the West Bank. I went around the West Bank and I saw a brutal, hideous occupation. And you say, go elsewhere in the Middle East. I've been to Iraq. You know what? I got into Iraq and was there. I went to Palestine, obviously under occupation by Israel, and they withdrew my visa after 2 days.
Yeah.
So there's your liberalism. Final part.
All the people likely running for president now on the Democratic side want it known they don't take money from AIPAC, the Israeli lobby, a stance which gives permission to actual anti-Semites to say, see, we're right about Israel. That's a dirty money from a dirty country. Oh, please. You take money from crypto and factory farmers and big tech, from Diddy and Weinstein and Epstein, but AIPAC is too far? Let me just say this to all who ask me, why are you harder on the Democrats than you used to be? Until you fix this whole issue, stop asking me.
Well, actually, we're getting there, Bill, because they shouldn't be taking money from any... No, they shouldn't be taking money from any vested interest. We should abolish big money in politics, whether that be crypto, whether that be the likes of Harvey Weinstein. Get rich people out of politics. Get big business out of politics. Yes, finally, we agree. But we should agree that we should not have money which is lobbying for a foreign state committing genocide, as is the consensus of Israeli scholars of genocide. Which is illegally occupying Palestine and colonizing its land and subjecting its people, yes, to apartheid. And you say it's not apartheid. I mean, they just introduced a death penalty, which only kills Palestinians. What is that?
How is that not apartheid?
Let alone, I don't know, having
like
a civil system in the West Bank for Jewish settlers and a military system for Palestinians. As we can see, full of ignorance, bigotry, lies, distortion, smears.
True, mate.
But people aren't buying it. He wasn't getting the enthusiastic response he thought he'd get. These people are losing, and they know they're losing. And they're scared. They're scared of the fact they're losing. But we have to keep, obviously, exposing these smears and exposing these lies. But the truth is, Western public opinion is shifting in one direction only, and that is away from Israel and its crimes. And it doesn't matter how much the likes of Bill Maher try and smear people who oppose heinous crimes as being hateful bigots, you're going to lose. And one day, we'll have a Palestine or a Middle East or the area between the river and the sea, where everyone, regardless of their ethnicity and their religion, are equal citizens. That's what's going to happen, whether you like it or not. Please like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts and your comments. Help us take on. Take over. I'd love that, actually. Take on a media which has facilitated genocide and which smears people and oppose genocide. At patreon.com/OwenJones84. You make all of this possible. Share the video. I'll speak to you in a bit.
Sector weather alert. A large sandstorm is approaching.
What did you say? What? The fuck was that? Alright. I suck. Defeat location. Guess here. It's my death box. Oh, where's the sound? It's daylight. Cool. It's daylight. Yeah. Damn it. Where's that water at? Where's the water at? Oh no, that's bad. There we go. That'll work. Give me water. Thought it was right here. I know. Be my skills, but I need water. Where's the water? Just forgot where it was. Over here? Wait, it's on the map. It is not listed. Oh, oh. Need that. Need water more though. Oh, I see it. Why the fuck over here? I hear something.
I'm out! Get them!
My blade's dead. fucker. I have a neighbor, apparently. Well, it's too bad that the water's all the way over there. What? All of a sudden, my knife stopped working. I was like, oh shit. Forgot about that one. Am I just around the corner here? I think I am. Oh. Wait, there is. Wait, it is on the map. I thought so. I had to zoom in. Fuck. I have water down there. Okay, I'm good. That's what I thought. It's like, what the fuck? I thought it was on. I need to heal, folks. Home sweet home. I used to have a vehicle. No longer. Huh? I need more salvage metal. Salvaged metal. Wait, here we go. Control, baby. Okay. Craft. We need this. Now, we have water near us. Right there. Huh? Where? Oh, right here. Perfecto. Call in for a strike. Should have finished that guy. Gotta finish him. Oh, is there a fucking... Darts. We need those. heavy darts. I'm at to crowd. No power. Great. Used all my metal. Alright, this game's great. I'll be back.